All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Christy Garton. Christy, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm excited to be here
I'll tell you, I have
and
been looking
looking forward to
forward
it.
to this. I have been looking forward to this, especially after our last conversation. And I want to start by just giving a shout out to Natalie because Natalie Alterice, she was the one. She reached out to me on Quoted, and I'm going to tell you, Natalie is just absolutely brilliant at talking you up, Christy. And so she sent information over to me unquoted about you, and I was like, wow, yeah, I would definitely like to talk with Christy and get to know her better. And so you and I, we've already had that conversation, but yeah,
Yes.
she's really great at talking you up, Christy.
Well, I think we all need cheerleaders, right? And
Yes.
absolutely, she's definitely talented at doing her work and PR, and it led to this opportunity today.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, we'll just get right into it and stuff, and I'll ask a nice simple question to get us rolling, then we can kind of dig a little bit deeper as we go along. But we'll just start with, Christy, what do you do and who do you serve, and then we'll get into more of it.
Sure. Well, let's see. My background, it's been a journey from my days when I was a law student and, working hard to get that degree and then graduating, working at a law firm in the
Okay.
Washington, D.C. area. My heart, however, has always really been in community impact, ways to be involved in my community. And that goes way back to when I was probably 6 years old. I can think of things I was doing at that time. Definitely there was, inspiration from my grandmother. But, fast forward today, I run a nonprofit, a 501c3. It is called 1000 Dreams Fund. We launched 10 years ago. We turned 10 this
Wow.
year. And our focus has been on really helping young people who are on that path. They have a dream, they know what they want to do in life, but they lack access to a very specific resource. It
Okay.
might be a micro grant to be able to study abroad. It might be a device they would need to purchase for a class that they're taking, or just even training. So we created a fund when we launched to be able to fund those needs, those dreams, and we've been doing that ever since. Close to 2 million granted out over that period of time. So really proud of that, and also a couple other ways we're serving our beneficiaries. Mentorship's a big one. The opportunity to connect one-on-one, just like we're doing today. We have a virtual mentoring program that does that. So that one, we've served thousands globally even. And then ultimately, we want to help our students get hired. So how do we connect them with direct employment opportunities? We have an apprenticeship program with one of our
Okay.
partners. So those are the ways we're serving students today. And just to get even more specific, our beneficiary is really that older student. We will serve high school all the way through graduate school, sometimes early career,
Okay.
but we really are serving those who are on that path, probably college, university level.
Okay. Okay. And how do these students find out about you guys?
Yes. Well, one of the big things we did initially was I went out and in the community I was living in at that time went and engaged with young people, different groups who, were in high school at that time, and even just brainstorming what some of the needs that they have were, and that kind of is really where this took shape. But the biggest insight that we have run with ever since is that a lot of funding opportunities, which is what we focused on initially, are difficult to find. You have
Okay.
to have access to the right database. You have to attend the right school. You have to, be aware of these resources. And in a lot of ways, that's a barrier. So we wanted to make it super easy for young people. Where are they today? They're on their phones or they're online. So we've been very focused on utilizing the social media tools that are available to really make sure we're reaching those students. And not only that, we also deployed this idea of peer-to-peer engagement. So, a lot of young people look up and the biggest influencers in their lives are often their peers. So we have a student advisory board that we created when we launched. We recruit every year young people who are outstanding individuals on their campuses and communities to be a part of this group. And they are involved with us on a weekly basis throughout the entire academic year,
Wow.
helping get the word out about our programming. So those are a few things that we do. Obviously, we form relationships with colleges and universities where we can. We engage other membership organizations of professionals to tap into for support. But ultimately, really just going direct to the student is how we've really done it from day one.
Okay. Okay. And then there's the other side of this, the funding of this. And talk about that a little bit and where that comes from and who your partners are with on that side of it.
Yes. Well, biggest thing we do ultimately the why we exist for our partners. We are a workforce development
Okay.
solution in some ways. So it's allowing our corporate, most of our support does come from corporations who are investing in that next generation talent that ultimately might be taking that next open position. So, going back to 2016, 2017, we formed some relationships with companies like Harman. It is a Samsung tech company. They have a lot of fantastic brands, JBL's. One of them, many people know. We
Uh-huh.
run a scholarship program with them. So that's our model. We will partner with companies like Harman and create targeted scholarship, mentorship, and where we can, connecting them to employment programs that we will run annually. So we will launch with usually a pilot. We're a national nonprofit, so our opportunities are often national, again,
Okay.
making it very accessible to students, but usually they're focused on an industry. So with Harman, for instance, that program is called the New Face of Tech. So we're looking to support students who are wanting to work in tech in some way.
Okay.
So that is typically our model. We've done that with Colgate Palmolive. We have a health scholars program with them. We just launched a new program with TIAA for students in business and finance. And so that's usually how we built our funding channels over the years, is really through these corporate partnerships. Obviously, as a nonprofit, grants, that's a piece of it. Donations from individuals. We do fundraising throughout the year, and we have a very active board of directors and a junior board that is made up actually of some of our previous beneficiaries. Now that we've been around for 10 years, we have a lot
Wow.
of young people who are now working and they want to make a difference and they're coming back. So those groups are actively involved in helping us build relationships and fundraise.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool. So what inspires you most about the work that you get to do and the impact you guys are making, Christy?
I think for me personally, I have always been inspired by stories, and that
Okay.
has motivated me to literally get up and do something. And as an example, I was in college. I was, as just a hobby, I was a big music person growing up. I studied different instruments, and I was in the symphony at my university, at the University of Kansas. The article I read was about an opera singer. Her name is Denise Graves, very famous opera singer. She was saying how much music had saved her, like literally saved her life.
Wow.
And that at that time just sparked me to think about, wow, music for me has been such a transformative opportunity that suddenly I had this idea. I was going to recruit my fellow symphony friends, and we would be providing free private music lessons, something that is very expensive from my experience, and often it's a barrier. So that became an organization. Probably, it was my first nonprofit when I was 19 doing that,
Wow.
and it was literally from this story. So, and it went on to continue after I graduated and touch a lot of lives. And so, if you check us out online, 1000dreamsfund.org, we do the same thing. We share the stories of all of our students that we have served through funding. So you can read about their dream, you can read about how we've made our investment made an impact, and it's really those stories for me personally that are very inspiring. We've got so many different types of students, dreams. It's vast, and to me, that's very exciting. And of course, you have some standouts. We supported a young woman who was trying to get into the Olympics. She was a college student at the time, didn't have enough money to train. Didn't have any sponsorship, although she was a top ski jumper in our country. So we stepped up and we were her only sponsor, actually. And she reached her dream. She competed in the Sochi Olympics. So,
Wow.
stories like that. But we have done a lot of work, just given the fact we've been doing this for 10 years. So all of
Yeah.
these stories really inspire me.
And I'll tell you what, that's what inspires all of us is just hearing these stories. I mean, so what are some more stories? I mean, share a few more stories of people's lives that you guys have impacted through this and stuff.
Yeah. Well, we've had some hard ones. Young people who, they're in vulnerable situations, and I mean, gosh, once awful incident. This young woman lost her life in a domestic violence situation, and we were the only resource online that because we had told our story and we had a reporter reaching out to us, that's how we even heard about it. So I mean,
Oh,
we have to keep that in mind that the population we're serving has other challenges in their lives. So we're mindful about that as well. Financial need for us is a big way in which we make our commitments over the years. But even just most recent, I'm thinking, just I mentioned our junior board. So we had from 2016, two of our high school students that had received support came to me personally through email and wanted to catch up and wanted to see how they could pay it forward, make a difference. And we started talking. They started working with us on the idea for this younger board, a training board,
wow.
and that became an annual program we run for young executives or early career professionals to join and be able to make a direct impact with us. And I will say it is an incredibly engaged group. 20 somethings, 30 somethings. They are very empowered, this generation, with digital tools that they have access to. They have a lot of influence. So they've been able to raise significant dollars for us. And it was just
Wow.
really because we had these former beneficiaries
Yeah.
coming back and wanting to make a difference that's happening. So I love the full circle nature of this, but also the reality too that can come up and just, you know, um, reaching where you should be in life isn't always the easiest journey. And if our organization can be any inspiration and kickstart in some way, that to me is why I do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, how inspiring is that students that you guys have helped are now reaching back out to you because they were so impacted by they're like, now we want to get involved and we want to help.
Yes.
And like, man, that just makes you feel so dang good. you know? And
Yes. That's when you can see, that what we're doing matters, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not it's not just a check in the mail or into the bank account. It really, at those important moments in our lives, when someone makes, well, when someone first of all says, "Hey, I see you, and I think what you're doing is outstanding in some way, and we're going to make an investment in you,"
yeah, yeah,
that stays with the individual. I
yes.
mean, I can think of everything over the past that did that for me too, and you don't forget.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that would just make such an impact on somebody that somebody else believes in them and what they're doing. And just, man, I mean, just how much that's boosts your confidence and
Yes.
just yourself that like, man, somebody believes in me.
Yes.
And that's huge. That is huge. Well, okay, so now that we've got some context set here, and listeners have a little bit of an idea, Chrissy, about who you're all about and what you're all about doing and stuff. I want to switch gears just a little bit. I want to start digging deeper into the relationship side of all of this. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Absolutely. And, I think uh, there's several that come to mind.
Okay.
I think from a personal side, My grandmother was an inspiration. She was very involved in our community where I grew up outside of the Kansas City area. And
Okay.
she, was my aunt is deaf. And so she taught herself how to sign and then got her teacher's degree or went to college at, I think, 35, and then
Wow.
ended up teaching at the state school for the deaf, and then got involved after her retirement in creating a museum. So, just saw that growing up and was involved in some of the things she was doing. I think that was a huge inspiration for what I do today.
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of actually, like, specifically what I do today, the earlier kind of stage of how this even came to be, I actually got published a few books. If you look me up, I had this series of books for young women getting ready for college. It was a very popular guidebook. Our main book was called The College Girl's Guide to Everything. And that was a 5 edition book over the course, I think, of 5 years. Our publisher kept coming back. We were in all major bookstores, checkout counters, Bed Bath and Beyond, just a really successful title. And that's when I decided for the 5th edition, I want to do something bigger with this. We've been impacting young people with content and advice for several years now. How can we really drive impact? And that's where the idea for 1000 Dreams Fund started to take shape. So at that time in my network, when you have an idea for a startup or a business idea, you go to, who's in your network. And
Yeah.
I had been at a marketing agency for some time, and had worked with a gentleman at the agency on a book. So I actually have another book out there called Marketing to Millennials, and my co-author on that book, Jeff Rom, had introduced me when I came to him, and I'm working on this idea for making a bigger impact. He introduced me to someone in the Kansas City community. I was living there at the time. His name is Bob Cutler, and it runs a marketing agency, just has been very, very successful with his business. So I met him, and he made a big investment in me and my idea. And, had it not been, I would say, without that support and his belief in my dream, 1000 Dreams Fund probably would not exist today. So I,
Wow.
fully credit that investment as, the impetus for me moving ahead. And it just goes to what we were saying about someone believing in you and willing to make a big commitment to your idea, or say, hey, I see you, I think you're doing a great job, and I believe that you can do this. It drives you forward.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that is all. Man, what a beautiful story right there, and just another example of what you were talking about earlier is that these stories, just sharing those, that's what makes such an impact. I mean, people love hearing the stories,
yes,
I know I do too. And
yes,
so, yeah, yeah, wow. And so this gentleman invested in you and saw in you, that like, wow, I just want to be a part of this. I just want to get involved in this.
yeah, yeah.
And
And I think, a lot of communities have these programs where they, bring in entrepreneurs. I, being a social entrepreneur, and making those commitments and invest. I mean, those programs, people like Bob, that matters, especially for women entrepreneurs. Venture, private equity, just startups in general. It's for many reasons, but women, there are fewer of us doing that, and that is why those types of programs, those kind of people who are willing to make those commitments, matter.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So did you say you had a couple other people that you wanted to honor and talk about too? I want to make sure I give you the opportunity before I
Oh,
keep
I
just
think that
asking more
covers it.
questions.
No, definitely. I think that definitely covers it for me.
Okay, okay. So then I want to dig deeper then. So what is an example of a situation where you personally, Christy, got to make a really substantial impact, maybe even in the moment, maybe it even surprised you a little bit, but yet you also know that would have never been possible if not for the relationship that you had with any one of the people that you've mentioned here. What's an example of like where you were empowered in that way?
And I think I've kind of alluded to some of that already. The Olympian that I met, a lot of my work as a nonprofit leader, you travel, you network, you meet
Okay.
people. And one of our board members at that time, she was in the Park City area. And so I had gone out on kind of like a tour to meet a lot of my board members in person. I was in Houston doing that, and then I went to Park City to do that. So, my board member at that time, she brought me to I believe it's the Olympic Training Facility in Park City. They
Okay.
had hosted the Winter Games a few years ago, and that's where Abby Ringquist, the ski jumper I mentioned, had come in to start training, and I started talking to her and her teammate and just hearing her story. Struggling to be able to fund her work, it just for me was like, wow, you are the type of individual my organization was created to support. And this is in 2017. So, that to me, to have the opportunity in this role, to be able to just identify immediately somebody like that. They've obviously, she has a great story. We would love the opportunity to support someone like that. Her dream to be an Olympian, I think, is something universal. You can go to any country, and to be an Olympian means something. And but to not be able to do that because of financial lack of financial
Yeah.
support,
Yeah.
despite your talents, that's a huge roadblock. So I was in that position to be able to identify and get my board on board to basically make a special commitment to her and do that sponsorship. So had I not met her, that would not have happened.
Yeah.
So that's a big one for me.
For sure.
Um, I think in this role there's definitely others. We've got a really special program with a company called Riot Games. It's in gaming and esports. Big important industry, lots of great careers. Kind of difficult to break into. It's pretty nascent. There's
Okay.
not like a on ramp that's available to all. You really do have to have the right connections. So we created this program with Riot. It's an apprentice style program, and we provide basically the recruitment. So we go out there and make sure we're helping to diversify the recruitment pipelines by reaching communities that may not have had access to their employment channels before.
Okay.
And so we've been able to deliver for 2 years finalists, candidates for them to select from, and they have each year selected two. They pay them, they move them from wherever they are, train them for 3 months, and then they will hire out of this program. So this program changes lives. And our first year was very exciting because it was in Dublin, Ireland. So when I launched 1000 Dreams Fund in 2016, it was focused here in the US. Now we're working in some cases globally, and this program is an example of that. So we targeted our recruitment to Europe, Middle East, they call it the EMEA region, to deliver these candidates. And so we delivered these two fantastic candidates who both of them got full-time jobs from it. And,
Wow.
so I was obviously heavily involved in creating this program. So again, just, to think back to when 1000 Dreams Fund was just an idea to
Yeah.
knowing we've created something that people are literally getting hired, into full-time roles. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that's why this exists.
Yeah.
And again, it inspires me. Like, how can we make this bigger? So
You bet. You
behind the
bet.
scenes, we're working to do that.
Yeah. Heck, hearing it from you inspires me because I'm like, I want to get involved in this. So,
Well, we'd love to have you, and yeah, we have so many ways in which folks can be involved. We do have a mentoring program. Anybody can go online onto our website and sign up to be matched with one of our students, and our teams running that program on a rolling basis. So it's very easy to be involved in that way.
yeah,
I love that we have an opportunity to do that for people.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Chrissy, now, so from you've made all this progress and stuff, and you've got to where you are right here, right now, today. And so, from your current vantage point of where you are right now, what's your vision for this going forward?
Oh yeah. Well, that is what I'm working on. Like I said, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I love this time that we're in because it is a time of transition. AI being a big driver of that, and figuring out how we can prepare this next gen talent or even currently employed people who need to make that transition successfully, and providing them with the resources and tools to get, in some cases, retrained, or to ensure that they're getting access to the right training while they're in school so they can enter these high demand positions. And many of these positions don't necessarily require a 4-year degree. I'm not sure how familiar you are, but there's a huge need for this role called technician at a lot of manufacturing companies, and that is not going to go away. This is like a decade long need for many companies. So my organization is kind of working behind the scenes on how we can be a part of providing that support, whether it's in the form of training or funding to help people get access to training, so we're able to be part of that important ecosystem that will be involved in preparing, the future workforce. Yeah. So for me, our visions, how can we be a part of that? How can we scale our programming? We're using tech potentially to do that. Okay. We're looking at an app for some of our work and making our resources and providing even greater access to individuals to make that happen. So it's really an exciting time for a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, and we definitely feel that excitement.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, for anybody who might be listening to this and thinking to themselves, man, wow, Kevin, I am just really inspired by Christie. I'd like to find out more about what they're doing. And maybe I'd like to get involved too. And maybe I've got other people that I know that would like to get involved. Any website, any resources we can share with folks?
Absolutely. Our website is the best place to go, 1000dreamsfund.org.
Okay.
And there you can find information on how to sign up to be a mentor, as I mentioned, how to, you can sign up to get our newsletter. That's a nice easy way to have access to all the ways in which to support our work.
Okay.
So our website definitely is a place to go. And you can also donate from our website. I would also say, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if you look my name up and you want to connect with me there, I absolutely welcome connections. Networking is a big part of what we do. So anyone who wants to learn more, I would be happy to hear from them.
Awesome. And I will make it nice and easy. So if you're listening to this, just scroll down a little bit. You'll find the links that she just mentioned right there, nice and easy for you. Christy, is there any last thing that you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
Well, I just want to say thank you. The opportunity to join you today and share a little about my story. It is just, it's inspiring to have places like your podcast where we can share the good work that's going on, and you giving us folks that you've interviewed before me a big spotlight on what we do. So I want to say thank you to you.
Well, you are so welcome. You are so welcome. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show here. And I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. And I'm excited to get this out there and share it with folks. So thanks so much, Christy.
Thank you, Kevin.